Welcome to another edition of Weekly Digest, a government information agency program that keeps you informed on what the administration has been doing to create a better environment for citizens. I'm your host, Ursula Ramdale. Thank you for joining us. In this week's presentation for the period May 11 to 17, 2013, technical and vocational education and training advances. Region 8 gets a new health post and funds to be disbursed shortly for Amerindian village projects and environment-resistant pesticides to be phased out. The Education Ministry is moving forward steadily in the advancement and promotion of technical and vocational education and training, with focus now on the planning of Guyana's national TVET policy.
We have, as a country, recognized the need for a more proactive movement in the area of technical vocational education, as a result of which we have built institutions and we have signed on to the program for doing TVET. So the vision to take us to the place where we wanted to be was laid by the PPP Civic Administration and Government. And that vision remains.
The minister was at the time speaking at a workshop on TVET policy planning, where she outlined what she anticipates from the offering of TVET at the secondary level, which include students having a deep interest in pursuing further studies, certification, and are absorbed into the workforce. Internationally, the rate of any country's economic development is intrinsically linked to its productivity, international competitiveness, and its capacity to build and sustain a competent workforce.
For this reason, that the policy document of TVET, that's the current one, refers to its vision as education for employment, and its mission statement as conceptualization, coordination, delivery of modular competency-based education training in order to create and sustain a workforce that's accredited to be internationally competitive.
The TVET policy is being planned at a time when the Council is in the process of introducing several national mechanisms for TVET, which include the implementation of competency-based education and training programs at formal and informal institutions, a national strategy for assessment and certification, and quality assurance guidelines for Guyana to be recognized as an accreditation body for the CVQs.
A new health post at Princeville in Region 8 will see residents of the surrounding communities gaining easier access to health care.
Minister within the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development, Norman Whitaker, commissioned a new health hut at Princeville, Region 8, during a ministerial outreach to the region.
We benefit well. At least I will try my best to work more harder, because I have enough space to work in. So I think I benefit more better than before.
The facility, which was built at a cost of approximately $6.8 million, will see the residents benefiting from improved healthcare services in their community.
I'm so proud of it, and so that, so all the people that are in Princeville will come to the health center. That would be nice, because it's only we in this village.
The health hut was constructed in 2012 by J&B Brothers. It is outfitted with a waiting room, malaria room, community health worker room, drug storage room, washroom, and water storage facility.
Guyana is now moving to address the phasing out of the uses of persistent organic pollutants, or POPs. These are pesticides whose organic compounds are resistant to environmental degradation.
A national implementation plan has been developed by the Pesticide and Toxic Chemical Control Board in fulfillment of the country's obligation to Stockholm Convention, a global treaty to protect humans' health and the environment from POPs. To this end, Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Agriculture George Jarvis recently signed an endorsement letter publicly signifying government's acceptance of the national plan.
In my capacity as Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Agriculture, acting on behalf of the Government of Guyana, I am pleased to endorse the National Implementation Plan and confirm that the National Implementation Plan is in accordance with my government's national priorities and our commitment to the Stockholm Convention. Furthermore, I'm directing the Pesticide and Toxic Chemicals Control Board in its capacity as Stockholm Convention focal point to submit the National Implementation Plan to the Convention's Secretariat in fulfillment of Guyana's obligation as a party.
Through the education of the Pesticide and Toxic Chemical Control Board, Guyana has already advanced significantly its goal of becoming a POPs-free country. To this end, the only POPs remaining and in limited use in Guyana are PCBs, which are largely associated with operating electrical equipment.
We are not only looking at POPs and PCBs, but pesticides generally. And this is the board's responsibility to ensure that we have a very good stewardship of pesticides from the time we import them right up until we dispose of the containers in which these things come. So there's not only the importation and use, but disposing of stocks, obsolete stocks, and also the containers.
Guyana is very well advanced in this area. In the existence of the board, its ability to manage chemicals is probably the best I've seen in a small, medium-sized developing country, and there's a great deal of credit should go to the government of Guyana over the years of developing this capacity.
This National Implementation Plan covers a 5-year period and defines specific outcomes and outputs that must be achieved.
Several Region 1 villages are to shortly begin receiving funding for their community development plans under the Amerindian Development Fund to advance projects to boost their village economies.
Minister of Amerindian Affairs Pauline Sukai on May 10 and 11 signed the agreement for their CDPs with the respective Tushas of Kamwata, Manawarin, Waikarebi, Barabina, Three Brothers, Baramita, and 4 Mile during a visit to Region 1. These 7 Region 1 communities are among 27 chosen to pilot the ADF project.
I'm truly delighted to be here and to be part of this historic moment. It has truly been a dream that has actually come to reality today. I'm very glad that Waikarabi had been selected as one, I believe, of the first community, I believe, on top list.
I am delighted to be representing Santa Rosa on the basis of benefiting among the first 27 villages. A few years ago when we submitted our CDP, we weren't quite sure whether we were going to have what our dreams were. And over time, you as villagers has asked what has happened to the CDP, what has happened to the project proposals. Well, really, time and time again we heard that it was going to come someday. Today has been a very remarkable day for us.
These pilot projects will be given a 9-month implementation deadline, and following the assessment, the second phase of the project will be implemented and the funds will be disbursed to the remaining Amerindian communities.
In every project, one wants to be sure that we have everything correct, and we want to learn from the experiences that are there, and we want to know what the lessons are also, so that those coming behind us, that our technical officers, the council themselves, will be able to close the gap that might be identified in the implementation phase of the 27.
The sum of $5 million has been allocated to each of these villages for their investment in a socio-economic project which aims to transform the village's economy. Kamwata and Three Brothers will look at hasta rearing, Manawaring intercropping cassava and bora, Waikarebi lumber, Barabina poultry rearing, Barometer will open a village shop and 4 Mile will engage in beekeeping.
More of the Weekly Digest after these messages. Stay tuned.
Ghana's economy grew by 4.8% in 2012, the 7th consecutive year of positive growth. This expansion was due to the macroeconomic policies put in place by government to protect the local economy and ensure a better life for all Guyanese. Economic growth is projected at 5.3% for 2013. The 2013 national budget grants exemptions from personal income tax to first-time homeowners whose taxable income goes towards paying interest on mortgage of up to $30 million from a commercial bank or building society. The 2013 national budget grants exemptions from personal income tax to first-time homeowners whose taxable income goes towards paying interest on mortgage of up to $30 million from a commercial bank or building society. With effect from the year of income 2013, personal income tax will be changed at a rate of 30% instead of 33 1/3%. As a result, more than 184,000 taxpayers will benefit from higher take-home pay, and an additional $1.8 billion of disposable income will be placed annually in the hands of the tax-paying public.
Thanks for staying with us on the Weekly Digest. Spanish-based exploration company Repsol will again be drilling for oil in Guyana, as the country is said to have the potential of 13.6 billion barrels of oil.
The company signed an agreement on May 14 and is expected to begin drilling in 2016 in the Kanuku block of the Berbice River.
Your company is not the only one out there, as you may know, and Andarco is doing some work. We've just recently renewed a number of licenses for CGX. And we're also in discussion with a number of other companies. I know Exxon would have carried out their 3D seismic work just recently. So there are activities taking place, and we do hope with your presence we can move our country forward to becoming one day the eventual oil and gas producer. Commitments given by the company we do welcome, especially in terms of capacity building, especially in the area of human resources, because we will need to build the skills, as it were, to prepare our country to manage an oil and gas sector, and we have started that at the level of the cabinet. In fact, whilst we're meeting here, we have a team in from the Commonwealth Secretariat that is currently advising the government on a number of policy initiatives and how it is do we interact, how it is do we prepare, what mechanisms, where it is do we need to update and modernize legislation in this regard. So we are preparing on our front, but certainly getting the type of help in this regard. I know Repsol has its own university, and we've had some preliminary discussions on how it is that Guyanese can be trained there.
Discussions had commenced in mid-2012 with Repsol, the Natural Resource Ministry, and the Ghana Geology and Mines Commission in anticipation of the expiration of the petroleum prospecting license, which was granted for the Georgetown block, where the Jaguar No. 1 well was recently drilled, providing cautious optimism about prospects for Guyana's efforts in promoting exploration of petroleum in that domain.
We're very pleased to work with the government of Guyana. We're very committed to the exploration of the Guyana territorial waters, and we hope for the best.
The new petroleum prospecting license and its accompanying production sharing agreement covers an area approximately 6,525 square kilometers within the sedimentary basin offshore Guyana and approximately 100 miles seawards of the mouth of the Berbice River. Repsol expressed satisfaction with the finalization of the agreement, noting that they are committed to working with the Guyana government.
The Ministry of Education has signaled its intention to change the age requirement for entrance to nursery school. Beginning in September 2014, students slated for nursery education can start earlier than before. Minister of Education Priya Manekchan has stated that the readiness of children to enter the system at an earlier age has been demonstrated over time by the children themselves, who know far more and are more advanced than their peers of yesteryear. She noted that the hurdle created by the current cutoff age has been causing great hardship to parents and young learners.
We propose to change that age requirement and take it up to having a child being allowed entry into nursery if that child is born by June 30th. That means that the child would be 3-6 at the end of the year the child turns 3, or 3-3 in September that the child is entering school. Now, I want to point out that there is going to be a cutoff here. So we say June 30th, there is going to be a child born on July 1st who wants to get into school. We have some professional concerns, and those are that a child that's younger than 3-3 may not be ready for the school environment, may not be ready to receive the kind of instruction that happens in nursery level 1. And so we have to have that cut off.
However, the change in age will see more students entering the nursery system than before. This will mean that the system has to be adjusted to cope with the additional numbers.
That means we have to have more furniture, more toys, more books, perhaps more teachers. It may not be an even spread, so there'll be some places we need to buttress more than some. And so we need the year to prepare for that, as well as to prepare our parents and students nationally for this incredible and progressive new change.
An additional 1,200 students each month are expected to be enrolled in the system due to the new age requirement. This can see up to 3,000 extra students enrolling each year. Guyana has earned $294 million through foreign direct investments in 2012, representing a 19% increase from the previous year's $247 million. This is according to the recently launched ECLAC report.
The report, produced by the United Nations Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean, provides a quantitative overview of foreign direct investment inflows and examines these capital inflows by destination, economic sector, and geographical area of origin. With a deliberate policy position to liberalize the economy, Guyana has enjoyed sustained exchange rate stability, constantly low inflation rates, interest rates that have influenced an exponential increase in commercial lending, a manageable debt to gross domestic product ratio, and healthy international reserves. Guyana has met most of the requirements to encourage investors with a stable macroeconomic environment that has over the years seen a stable currency and low inflation, positive relations with neighboring countries like Venezuela, a major trading partner, and Brazil, a rapidly emerging economy. The country has witnessed 7 consecutive years of growth and a prediction by the International Monetary Fund of a similar trend for this year and 2014. Growth is predicted by the IMF at 5.5% for this year and 6% in 2014. With major infrastructural projects in the making like the Amila Falls Hydropower Project, the Cheddi Jagan International Airport Expansion Project, and the Marriott Hotel, Guyana is on track in transforming towards the new growth poles for development.
Stay tuned for a cabinet roundup and perspectives after the break.
Guyana's economy grew by 4.8% in 2012, the 7th consecutive year of positive growth. This expansion was due to the macroeconomic policies put in place by government to protect the local economy and ensure a better life for all Guyanese. Economic growth is projected at 5.3% for 2013. The 2013 national budget grants exemptions from personal income tax to first-time homeowners whose taxable income goes towards paying interest on mortgage of up to $30 million from a commercial bank or building society. The 2013 national budget grants exemptions from personal income tax to first-time homeowners whose taxable income goes towards paying interest on mortgage of up to $30 million from a commercial bank or building society. With effect from the year of income 2013, personal income tax will be changed at a rate of 30% instead of 33 1/3%. As a result, more than 184,000 taxpayers will benefit from higher take-home pay, and an additional $1.8 billion of disposable income will be placed annually in the hands of the tax-paying public.
During cabinet meeting this week at the office of the President, His Excellency President Donald Ramotar and ministers of the government discussed several issues of national concern. The media was subsequently briefed on the cabinet's deliberations.
At its May 14th statutory meeting, Cabinet gave its no objections to 5 contracts in the areas of agriculture, housing and water, health and sport. Cabinet Secretary Dr. Roger Luncheon described the threat by the opposition to block government's legislation as reprehensible.
Linking the support for the enactment of the amending bill to the President's withholding of assent has taken the nation, has taken Guyana into extreme perilous states and conditions. At the end of the day, the opposition political parties cannot be unaware of what are the likely consequences, cannot claim that they have not been aware, and in essence cannot shirk their responsibilities.
Government is calling on the opposition to rise above the political fray in light of the international sanctions that the country stands to face should it fail to pass the Anti-Money Laundering and Countering the Financing of Terrorism Amendment Bill before the May 27 deadline.
The President's non-assent to the two bills is a matter that has been from the time the bills were tabled in Parliament, from the time of the discussion, the debate on the bills. The President, non-assent, was already publicized and made known. To link that to the future of Guyana and our ability to entertain and to continue to entertain the good standing in the international community that is conferred by our compliance with our obligations under the SPATF and other conventions is indeed a most reprehensible step by the political opposition.
Meanwhile, government welcomes the new lease agreement between the community of Hururu in the Berbice River and BCGI, the local subsidiary of Rusal, that will see the development of the Kurubuka bauxite mine.
The new lease agreement covers both the old agreement under which the company was operating in the community, the Hururu community lands, as well as the new agreement. And it also contains commitments by the company to provide economic and social investments for the benefit of the members of the Hururu Amerindian community.
And now for perspectives with Mr. Prem Mizir.
Today I want to talk about budget cuts, which I believe represent some kind of slowdown tactic. The battle of the Guyana Budget 2013 cut rages on. You would think that the cuts happened because Donald Ramutar and his team are wild spenders. But when you try to work out reasons for the cuts, there is little macroeconomic thinking for the taste bud. Many of the excised projects, that is those projects that were cut, already started life. And so you do not wait for a budget debate to present your diagnosis of their feasibility or matters of that nature. Such diagnoses have to appear circa project conception and certainly before delivery. Most of the 2012 budget projections were realized, and they are now critical for underpinning Budget 2013 estimates. And as the battle becomes more than what it should be, parliamentarians need to remind themselves that Guyana
is a member of the developing world and try to grasp what has been happening to this world since 1980. Since 1980, many poor countries' economic crises had to do with increased budget deficits and foreign exchange. To correct this situation, governments used stabilization and liberalization measures of the IMF and World Bank. These measures were referred to as structural adjustment programs, expected to reduce spending and produce exports to repay external debts, but measures hardly brought economic growth to these poor nations. The new PPPC government in 1992 used a modification approach toward the inherited structural adjustment program, resulting in tensions with the international financial institutions. Further, the PPPC government in 1994 negotiated for a new extended structural adjustment facility, which was approved in 1995. The bottom line is that even with Guyana's modified IMF and World Bank liberalization measures, where austerity is still the watchword, the Budget 2013 cuts would play havoc with Guyana's economic development. However, what kind of economic growth or expansion would Guyanese expect when they are hit with a double whammy? That is, the prevailing austere modified IMF World Bank measures, and now the savage 15% cuts or thereabouts to the Guyana Budget 2013, equivalent to $31 billion. This double whammy will force a slowdown at a time when an expansionary policy is necessary for the government's ongoing policies of unemployment mitigation and job creation. I am not suggesting that there should not be budget cuts. The bottom line is that the budget cut are cuts. These budget cuts really are cudgel against the poor and vulnerable, especially those cuts related to public capital investments, such as the Chedijagan Airport Modernization Project, the Ogle Aerodrome Assistance, the CGIA Cooperation, Civil Aviation Equipment, and hinterland and coastal airstrips, among others. There is evidence to indicate that public capital investments as these can present more gains to the people than private capital investments. Furthermore, government consumption expenditures have a negative impact on growth, while government capital investment expenditures, like the Chedijagan Modernization Program and so on, generally show a positive influence on growth. Note that the budget cuts are largely under capital expenditure, and therefore, with these cuts now, these may place a question mark on the economic growth of this country.
And with those features, we have come to the end of this edition of Weekly Digest. But before we go, here is a recap of the highlights. Technical and vocational education and training advances. New health center for Region 8. Environment-resistant pesticides to be phased out. And funds are to be disbursed shortly for Amerindian Village projects. Please note that Weekly Digest and other government information programs can be found on our website www.gina.gov.gy, or you can send us your comments and suggestions at gina@gina.gov.gy. Join us again next week as we highlight more of government's programs and policies which continue to enhance the lives of Guyanese. I'm Ursula Ramdale. Stay tuned for your regular programming. Goodbye.